Hello, my dear fellow educators out there. This is the time that we are forced to sit down and also deal with the current and look at the future. My name is Lakshmi Kumar. I'm the founder director of the Orchid School in Pune. I warmly welcome all of you to the NARC Power Talks. Um, to set the context, that we know that we all are facing this huge situation of the pandemic and how it has impacted the school systems and how it seems like a disruptive learning. It's also the time to look ahead and see that what kind of systemic changes that we need to embrace, and I call this envisioning the new avatars. It's a very, very unusual situation of being in the crisis while also envisioning the future, because we all know that the crisis is not over. According to the scientists, that it can take from the pandemic to the epidemic state, and we still have a lot of things that we haven't uncovered about the pandemic. And this, of course, brings a whole lot of uncertainty, and that we, in the new normal situation, also we need to bring out the new tribes in us. And I've kind of mapped the three new tribes that we need to focus on. The systems itself, the school systems, or the whole educational ecosystems, and teachers and the whole staff that works in a school system, and above all the educational leadership. Well, it's almost like that we need to rebirth, or we need to turn ourselves a bit inside out. At the center of all this envisioning and the new tribe or the new avatar that I talk about is that our readiness to embrace change. And I have kind of mapped what is required in terms of the core changes that we may have to embrace, or the departure that I would say, starting with that it doesn't probably will not have a great premium to run schools all 6 days or 5 days. We may have to probably look at for a while, maybe 2 days or a 3 day school and a 2 day at home. And our calendar year could go topsy-turvy also. This whole thing about June to April or May to June, or the IB schools have another kind of an academic calendar that itself probably needs to be revisited, because the current situation has set a new cycle of when the exams are getting conducted and when the results are out, and when the higher education universities are starting their new courses. The most and everyday important change that we need to bring about is in the core educational processes. I believe that right now the crisis has taught us some core lessons in the way we teach, the way our children learn, the way we assess, and the way we give feedback and evaluate. So the core processes need to go through a sea change, which means that at the core of it all is that you have a most important stakeholder, the teacher. And I think we need to redefine the professional development and preparation of our the teacher graduates per se. And that we probably need to look at the professional development plan in a way that we provide this as an opportunity to completely reimagine and kind of reject the worn out formats, and that we need to prepare them for situations that have not been part of our professional life before, nor has it been part of our educational life before. And the most important requirement for this is that we need to build resilient and crisis tolerant leadership. Our traditional leadership has been the senior teachers or leaders who have done some kind of a very long stint in education, probably worked in curriculum development, but we haven't really trained them for the management principles of sustainability, survival, crisis management, change management, and looking at financial stability and the handling the whole lot of HR policies. So I think we need to re-look at the way the educational leadership is getting prepared and trained and launched, I would say. And at the same time that we need to save them from the very monotonous administrative tasks of running a school and incentivize them and support them so that our leaders are ready for bold and forward looking decisions. And another very, very significant element that we need to prepare for future is the staff or the HR policies, that welfare, that we know that our teachers have risen up to the situation, but they have come to certain levels of fatigue and certain levels of anxieties, and that we need to take care of. And in terms of a robust HR policy that keeps them motivated, that keeps them energized, support for their mental well-being, probably through counseling services for the staff, and maybe ensure that they have been well insured, they have the medical insurance coverage. So you kind of look at them as a very valuable employee, and we can always borrow the best practices from the corporates. And this is the crux of my talk, is that we need to uh, have a mind shift or a paradigm shift of how we need to teach. And I fall back on two of my most inspiring foundational thought leaders, so to say, Mr. Bloom and Mr. Maslow. And based on this, that I believe that apart from us teaching the subjects, the core subjects, or what they call the main key subjects, I have mapped what we need to really focus on in terms of the teaching. And especially the competency and the literacy is a very, very important segment for us. That literacy is not just about the LSRW or the numeracy skills and all that, but most importantly, the post-pandemic time, our children should always be ready to learn something very new that's not in the framework of curriculum or syllabus. And very, very important and core skill is the digital literacy. And I don't mean by just being online as a digital literacy, but a well mapped curriculum to, and which is age appropriate to create digitally literate citizens. But most important is that media literacy, because our world is going to be driven by the WhatsApp university or replaced by another kind of social media university and flooded with information and misinformation. I think the media literacy is a very, very powerful tool that we need to give it to our students, though, so that they become digitally responsible citizens and decode what is appropriate information, what is fake news, and also be responsible in not forwarding it. This is a very, very, very important literacy that should be emphasized on. And never to forget the basics, because I know that the year on online has given a setback to some very, very psychomotor skills and writing practices and probably some very basic literacy skills. When you look at the competency mapping, I have put on top the ambiguity competency. We have been so used to, as educators, as school systems, as human beings, we have kind of mapped our life to very predictable events happening, but no one imagined the pandemic, and no one imagined the pandemic to be this long and this life changing and life impacting crisis. I think the competency to deal with unforeseen circumstances need to be embedded in our readiness for building our future skill for our students. And initiative competency is that our young generation need to not wait for someone to solve the problem, someone to address it, but the ability to take the initiative when there are no clear guidelines given, but taking that risk and taking that initiative to address the situation is another very important competency. And when I looked at the skills and attitude that we need to build in the new avatars of our students, all that I have enlisted in terms of the interpersonal and cooperation. Cooperation is becoming more important, not because it's a cooperative learning or a teamwork, but I think at the center of today's crisis is about world coming together to solve a common problem and not hoard or not own certain solutions only for you, because this is taught that if everyone is not safe, nobody is safe. That philosophy has to drive this skill that we need to bring in at the center. And hence schools can't anymore work in silos as some kind of individual islands, and eyeing for this top scores and the unique places and the ranks, but we need to learn to collaborate together. And I think when the system sets the tone of collaboration and interdependency, I think our teachers will embody that and they become collaborative partners with each other. And parents have become very important learner teachers in the living room. They have actually journeyed with us in the 2 years, and we have seen that they can contribute to supporting the child's learning. Never mind the little irritations or interference that they give, but parents have definitely taken another kind of a new role. um, well, in many aspects, this crisis has forced us to rethink our school systems in a way that I don't think I have ever envisioned it or visualized it, nor have I been trained for in my 30 years of being in the field of education. I'm starting all over again as year one. I invite all of you educators to envision the new tribe and take the new avatars. Thank you.